Yeah, I'll Bill Sridhar Mataji. When you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chevam Narotayam. Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaye Uttare. नित्यप्रायेषु अद्वेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगति उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवति नैस्तिके. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 12, The Perfect Society, Four Spiritual Classes. Text from text 1 through 10. Text 1. Narad Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukul only for the benefit of the Guru. Text 2. At both junction of day and night, namely in the early morning and in the evening, he should be fully absorbed in thoughts of the spiritual master, fire, the sun god, and Lord Vishnu, and by chanting the Gayatri mantra, he should worship them. Text 3. Being called by the spiritual master, the student should study the Vedic mantra regularly, every day before beginning his study and at the end of his study. The disciple should respectfully offer obeisances unto the spiritual master. Carrying pure kush grass in his hand, the brahmachari should dress regularly with a belt of straw and with a deerskin garment. He should wear matted, matted hair, carry a rod and water pot, and he decorates with a scarred thread as recommended in the Sastras. Text 5. The brahmachari should go out in the morning and in the evening to collect alms, and he should offer all that he collected to the spiritual master. He should eat only if ordered to take food by the spiritual master. Otherwise, if the spiritual master does not give this order, he may sometimes have to fast. Text 6. A brahmachari should be quiet, well behaved, and gentle, and should not eat or collect money that's then necessary. He must always be active and expert, fully believing in the instruction of the spiritual master and the sastras. Fully controlling his senses, he should associate only as much as necessary with women or those controlled by women. Text 7. A brahmachari or one would have one who has an accepted the grahastha ashram family life must regularly avoid talking with a woman or about a woman for the sense of so powerful that they may agitate even the mind of a sannyasi, a member of a renounced order of life. Text 8. If the wife of a spiritual master is young, and young brahmachari should not allow her to care for her hair, massage his body with oil, or bathe him with affection like a mother. Text 9. Woman is compared to fire, and man is compared to butter pot. Therefore, a woman should avoid associating Therefore, a man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in this secluded place. Similarly, he should also avoid associating with other women. One should associate with women only for the important business and not otherwise. Text 10. As long as living entity is not completely self realized, as long as he is not independently of the misconception of identifying with his body, which is nothing but a reflection of the original body and senses. He cannot be relieved of the conception of duality, which is epitomized by the duality between man and women. Thus, there is a chance that he will fall down because his intelligence is bewildered. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Atyalibeli Mataji, for reading today's Bhagavatam section translations. And thank you, Sundarananda Prabhu, for giving this opportunity so that I can share a few words from Srimad Bhagavatam for my own purification. And thank you all for joining today's Bhagavatam section. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 12, titled The Perfect Society, 4 Spiritual Classes, from Slokas 1 to 10. So we'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pachattadeshatarani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are in a new chapter. This is a very wonderful chapter. It gives very wonderful instructions also. Just to give a background, we just completed the Prahlad Maharaj pastime. This is all Narada Muni is narrating to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So after speaking about, narrating about the characteristics of Prahlad Maharaj to Yudhishthira Maharaj, who became very pleased. So then he inquired about the actual religion of a human being and the characteristics of Varnashrama Dharma. So, and then Narada Muni started narrating about these two things, or answering those two questions. So in the last chapter, we heard Narada Muni talked about the actual religion of a human being, Sanatana Dharma. And then he also started talking about Varnashrama Dharma. So he gave the details of Varna. So the 4 social classes like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and their activities. Like Brahmana is Patan, Patan, Yajan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha. Like he reads the Vedic literature, he teaches that Vedic literature to other society members, and then he performs the yajna or deity worship, and he teaches that to others also, how to do it. And then he accepts the charity, and he also gives the charity like that. And then Kshatriyas, they give protection. Kshatriya hui praja rakshan. And Vaishyas, they do the Krishi Goraksha Vanijya, like they do the farming, and then protection of cows, and also the trading. And the Sudras, they serve the other 3 classes, higher classes, like that. Those are the duties. And then Narada Muni also talked about how a higher class person in an emergency can accept the other kind of duties like that. So in this chapter, Narada Muni is narrating about the characteristics of the spiritual classes, the 4 spiritual classes: Brahmacharya, Gruhastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. So today we'll go through the first 10 slokas, talks about the Brahmacharya ashrama. In the first sloka, we see that Narada Muni is saying that a Brahmachari student should practice completely controlling his senses. So Dantaha, Danta means continuously practicing control of the senses. So this is the beauty of our Vedic education system. Like from the beginning onwards, so our system trains a person to be a better human being by controlling their senses. But the modern education is actually fuels the uncontrolled sense more and more. or agitates the senses more and more, so that they are uncontrolled like that. So of course, this is the training of our practicing controlling senses starts from brahmacharya, but it continues in the rest of the uh, um, classes also, like whether it is family life or grahastha or vanaprastha, sannyasi. And this is very important even for practicing devotee also, sadhana bhaktas. This is crucial because uh, if we don't control the senses, then it will destroy us. So the best way to control the senses is to divert them or engage them in the service of Krishna instead of indulging in sense gratification. So we have many examples. Specifically, we hear from the Amarish Maharaj's life and pastimes, like Amarish Maharaj engages all his senses in the service of Krishna. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunadu Varnana, like that. He uses his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna and Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunadu Varna. So he uses his words to describe the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and he uses his hands in cleaning the temple, his ears to hear Krishna Katha, and his eyes to see the take the darshan of Supreme Lord Krishna's deity, like that. All the senses he uses in the service of Krishna. So similarly, if we can try following in his footsteps to engage all our senses in the service of Krishna and his devotees, then our senses will be trained to be controlled. Of course, it's not definitely a easy task to control the senses, because especially I talk to myself because Bhagavatam also says that Balavan Indriyo Gramo. So it says that the Indriyas, the senses are very strong, and it says that this is not something applicable only for an ordinary person or uneducated person or a low class born person, not like that. Even this is applicable for even the learned scholars also. Vidvansam api karshati. Like even though one is very advanced in knowledge, so they will be attracted, especially for the opposite gender. So the opposite gender attraction is very strong. And we see that in many great personalities. When Vishwamitra Mahamuni is performing great austerity, so what happened, like when Indra sent this Manaka, and Vishwamitra did not open his eyes, but as soon as he heard the ankle bells of Manaka, his austerity or tapasya got broken. So because the senses are very strong. So especially the opposite gender attraction. So that's why Krishna suggests in Bhagavad Gita, regulate our senses. So we have to train our senses. Tasmatvam indriyanu adav niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam gnana vijnana nashanam. So it says that we have to start controlling our senses from the beginning by regulating these senses. Otherwise, it will destroy our knowledge and ultimately our sadhana, self-realization. So especially I heard that these senses, some of the senses are very strong in some of the species, like the fish. So it cannot control his tongue. So that's why when the fisherman puts little food to the hook and throws into the water, even though the vast water body has so much food, but fish unable to control the tongue, it will go to the tries to eat that food which is hooked to the hook, and then it is caught and it is died. Ultimately it will be died. So like that, some senses are prominent or strong in some species, but unfortunately all the senses are very strong in the human form. So that's why we need to be more cautious by practicing. That's why we should be very cautious, and we should practice our Krishna consciousness sincerely and seriously. Otherwise, all the senses in different directions, they'll come and destroy us. Of course, I talk to myself. And then the brahmachari should be very submissive. So it's like a nichaha, very submissive, obedient. And also, he should be very humble, dasavat, towards the spiritual master. And not only that, brahmachari should live at Gurukula only for the benefit of the Guru, Guru Hitam. So when we humbly serve Guru for his benefit or for the purpose of pleasing Guru or an exalted Vaishnava, then what can he do? How he can help? He can recommend us to Krishna. So when the great personality, a great exalted Vaishnava recommends to Krishna, then Krishna will accept it. So that's a recommendation. So there is one nice pastime during Srila Ramanujacharya time. So one time when Srila Ramanujacharya went to Tirumala and he wanted to do Brahmotsava, the great festival for the Lord Balaji's pleasure. And then he requests his disciples to do all the arrangements. And the disciples try to do the fundraising so that they can do this festival very opulent way or grand manner. And they tried, but they're not getting enough funds. At that time, one lady, she comes forward and she tells that I will give whatever the things that are required for this festival. But only one condition is she wants a meeting with their guru, Srila Ramanujacharya. And since they need badly the funds, they accepted her proposal. And then the program went very well, and Srila Ramanujacharya is very pleased and he appreciates his disciples. And then the disciples reveals that where they got the funds, so from this lady. And they also says that this lady wants to meet you. Of course, as a sannyasi, it is not appropriate to meet, but after the discussions, then Srila Ramanujacharya agrees to meet this woman. And this lady comes to Srila Ramanujacharya, and Ramanujacharya asks, like, what can I serve? Then this lady says to Ramanujacharya that she wants him to be promoted to, she wants her to be promoted to the Vaikuntha. So she requests Srila Ramanujacharya to help that or to do that. And Srila Ramanujacharya says that I am an insignificant jiva, so I cannot be able to liberate you. So only Mukunda can do. So Krishna can do it. He is the he is the one who can give the liberation. So then she asks, like, how can he help her to be liberated? He tells that he can recommend to Mukunda, so that requesting Mukunda to liberate her. So then she asked to give write it in a paper and give it. So then Srila Ramanujacharya writes it and gives to this lady. And this lady takes that letter and enters into the temple of Lord Balaji. Of course, Lord Balaji, in the disguise of Brahmana, he comes and he asks this lady, where are you going? Why are you going? And she hand over that letter to Sri Balaji. And Balaji, while reading it, so an aeroplane comes from the Vaikuntha planet and takes her to the spiritual world. So that is the strength of the a pure Vaishnava. His recommendation, due to his recommendation, so anyone can go back to Godhead, whom they recommend. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada has an open recommendation letter for all of us. Like, he gave this simple thing, like, chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And follow 4 regulative principles and take a shelter of a Guru. Then Prabhupada will help us. So with the strength of Prabhupada or through his recommendation letter, we can also go back to Godhead and make our human life successful. And then Brahmachari, in the second sloka, we see that early morning and evening he should fully absorb in the thoughts of spiritual master, fire, the sun god and Lord Vishnu by chanting the Gayatri mantra. So this is the recommendation for the Brahmachari, like, he should be fully absorbed in the thoughts of spiritual master, fire, the sun god. So in the junctions of the day and night by chanting the Gayatri mantra. So when they do like that, then the Supreme Lord will be pleased. So then in the third sloka, you see that being called by the spiritual master, the student should study Vedic mantras regularly. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Of course, for a practicing devotee also, this is recommended. So we should regularly read Bhagavatam or chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra or serve devotees. So this is recommended. How like a brahmachari should regularly read Vedic mantras, Similarly, a practicing devotee should also cultivate the habit of reading Srimad Bhagavatam or the Vedic literatures regularly, or Srila Prabhupada books regularly, and then chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and serve Vaishnavas. Like here we see that, the disciple should respectably offer obeisances to the spiritual master. And this is another thing, like, before we study any of this spiritual Vedic literature, we should offer our respectable obeisances to the spiritual master and take the blessings from him and from the parampara, so that when we read it, so they will help us to understand that Vedic literature in a appropriate way. So that we can take those instructions to the heart and then practice it in our life. And then in the fourth sloka, we see that the brahmacharis are carrying a pure kusha grass in his hand and should dress regularly with a belt of straw, with deerskin garment, wear matted hair, and carry a rod on water pot decorated with sacred thread, as recommended in the Shastras. So the brahmacharis generally they go through austerities. Even we see in the next sloka also. So they go and beg. So during the brahmacharya ashramam, so the brahmachari goes through some austerities, so that they are trained in a way that in the future, even if there are some challenges comes in the life, so they will be able to handle it instead of being disappointed, distressed. Because in the as Kali Yuga progress and this modern education doesn't train them, if there is a challenge comes in the future life, how to handle it. So that's why we see that, even if some small problems comes or some distress comes, people are not able to take it. In some cases, they go for an extreme situation where they go for a suicide also, like that. So that's why it's very our Vedic education system is designed in such a way that so not only we face challenges in the future life, also controlling all our senses and progress in the path of the bhakti, so that we can make our human life successful, because this human life is very rare and very important. So here we see that, the brahmachari, they collect alms and offer all that they collect to spiritual master, and they eat only if ordered by the spiritual master. Otherwise, if there is no order, then they will go fast. So even when the Supreme Lord comes into this material world, so he also, through his own personal example, he shows how to serve the spiritual master. Like in Krishna and Balarama, they served their guru, Sandeep Muni, when they studied in his ashram and staying as a brahmachari. So through their own example, they also show how to perform the activities of brahmacharya and how to serve the spiritual master, like that. So even Lord Ramchandra, he went through that in the ashram of Vasishtha Mahamuni, like that. And then in the text 6, you see that brahmachari should be quite well behaved and gentle, and not eat or collect more than necessary. So this is we also hear this from the Nectar of Instruction of Srila Rupa Goswami, saying that atyahara prayasascha, like, one should not eat more than necessary or collect more funds than what is required. And then prayasascha, so also not to put so much effort to get some material things which are very difficult to obtain. Because if you engage all our energy and time in getting the material things which are very difficult to obtain, then we will have no time to practice our Krishna consciousness, which is very important. And that's the most thing that we have to do in our life. And these things are not conducive to our spiritual progress also. And sometimes it spoils also our progress, because when we collect so many things, then it will it doesn't help us to progress in the path of bhakti. So we spend more time there only. And also here we see that brahmachari, fully controlling his senses, should associate only as much as necessary with the woman are those controlled by women. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so brahmachari should be very careful mixing with women or men addicted to women. Lord Rishabhadeva also says in his instructions, Tamodvaram Yositam Sangi Sangam. So when we associate with the opposite gender or the people who are addicted to the opposite gender, so then our path to hell is wide open. Why? Because with their association, we also probably acquire that kind of mentality, that kind of qualities. So then we also start performing, associating with the opposite gender, and then due to that we may be performing many sinful activities to please the opposite gender, like Ajamila did. So he performed many sinful activities to please or to maintain the prostitute whom he is associating like that. So that's why it is very important one to be very cautious and associate as much as they are necessary with the opposite gender or the people who are addicted to the opposite gender. And then in the text 7, see that the brahmachari who has not accepted grihastha ashrama must rigidly avoid talking with women or about women, because the senses are so powerful, they may agitate even the mind of a sannyasi. So we see so many examples like now we see in the pastime of Saubara. So he is actually meditating inside the water. He didn't see even in the woman or talked anything, but when the two fishes are mating, so his mind got agitated and his tapasya got broke like that. So that's why Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the entire Vedic system is teaching us to avoid opposite gender union so that one can gradually progress. So otherwise, we will be losing the great opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. Instead, if we indulge in sense gratification, we'll continue the miserable life in this material world. In the text 8, if the wife of the spiritual master is young, then young brahmachari should not allow her to care for his hair, massage his body with oil, or bathe him with affection like mother. So when the brahmachari is in the ashramam, so if the guru has generally guru wife is like one of the mother. So because she is mother, sometimes they could comb their hair or massage their body with oil or bathe him like affectionate with affection like a mother. That could happen. But if the spiritual master wife is very young, then the brahmachari should not allow her to care, because the senses are very strong, balavan indriyam. So the brahmachari could attract the wife of the spiritual master who is very young. So that's why that is forbidden. In the text 9, we said woman is compared to fire and man is compared to a butter pot. So therefore, man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place. So similarly, he should also avoid association with other women. So one should associate with women only for important business and not otherwise. So this is a very important instruction also. Even in Bhagavatam, it is mentions that matra swastra dvitrava, like that. He says that one should not associate with women, even though it is his own daughter or his own sister or his own mother. So they should not associate with them in a secluded places, because the senses are very strong. They could pull us into a wrong activity. So that's why it is avoided. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a civilization that allows men and women to be mixed unrestrictedly, that's called animal civilization or uncivilized way of life. Of course, as Kali Yuga progresses, that's what we see. But that civilization is not recommended in the Vedic education system or the lifestyle of Vedic literature. So that's why even if one is very advanced, whether in the path of jnana or yoga, Astanga yoga, or even the path of bhakti yoga. So one should be very careful in associating with the opposite gender. And in the next sloka also it is says that as long as living entity is not completely self-realized and is not independent of the misconception of identifying with his body, he cannot be relieved of the conception of duality. So specifically the duality between man and woman. So that's why there is every chance that he will fall down because his intelligence is bewildered. So this is a stress and caution that's giving from this Srimad Bhagavatam section that as long as we are not realized, like if we are realized, then Pandita Samadarshanaha. So one is in a realized, self-realized state, then they can see everyone in an equal manner and they understand each and every one's positions. So then they will not be able to bewildered or they don't do any mistake. But unless we come to that stage, so one should be very cautious because we our mind or our intelligence will be bewildered and then we can fall to the victim of the Maya, specifically to the opposite gender attraction. So that's why it is this sloka is cautioning us or stressing us one to be very careful not to be associated with women or opposite gender and be saved from the clutches of Maya, especially this lust. So that's why we have to, Krishna, as Krishna said, we have to regulate our senses and engage our senses in the activities of Krishna consciousness, and then as best as we can practice sincerely and seriously this Krishna consciousness by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra very attentively. So I'll pause it here. Thank you all for giving this opportunity. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.